Hello. Good morning, everybody. Come on in, get your coffee. Mine's all on the way here. The Starbucks blend. What time is it where you are? Thank you. Coffee it is. Syracuse. In Syracuse, you do drink coffee, not coffee. By the way, Syracuse is the reason that I moved to California. It's cold in Syracuse. Yeah, I can't find the old ones either. My startup that I'll talk about pretty soon, not today, but will actually, among many other things, it will index my blog or your blog. It's just one of the many things it does. Actually, the startup has nothing to do with indexing blogs, but it just happens to do that coincidentally. Moved to Mexico? You thought I wouldn't wake up this morning? Yeah, it's suddenly more dangerous to me now. It's dangerous to be me now. You're reading Persuasion? What do you think of it? So, you know what happens when you're me? Because everybody sends you that book, Persuasion. I have 3 copies of them now. All right. So, Calendar Tree is the original startup. So that's a few years old now. Calendar Tree's up and running, still doing its thing. The startup that you're going to hear about in a few weeks grew out of Calendar Tree, but Calendar Tree would be a tiny part of what we're doing now. Talk about Mark Cuban in the front row. You just want to hear me say funny things about Mark Cuban, don't you? So, yeah, I just thought it was funny that Mark Cuban agreed to be in the front row, and then and then soon after that, Clinton announced that people with his amount of money would pay 65% death tax. So she was going to not only make him sit in the front row and clap for her like a trained seal, but she was going to take 60% of his money. It was like a terrible timing for him. I don't know why that's so funny to me. I don't know who Trump will put in the front row. I'm not even sure that's up to him, is it? Is that up to the party, or is that up to the candidate? Ted Cruz. So, did anybody happen to notice that I decided to endorse Trump yesterday? Did anybody notice that? Yeah. So, here's my take on politics. And this will explain everything about my entire belief in politics and my political leanings. So part of the reason that I'm neither a Democrat nor a Republican, nor anything else, is that unlike most of you, I'm pretty sure I don't have enough information to know who's got the best policies. So, for example, do you really know what's the best policy on international trade deals? If you think you do, you're fucking kidding yourself. Because not only do you not know anything about international trade deals, but the people who voted on them, they don't really understand them because they're zillions of pages long. And I'll even go further. I'll bet the people who wrote them don't completely understand them because maybe they wrote part of them and things got edited and it was so long ago and it was a few years ago and they remember they thought of 3 things but can't remember what the final outcome was. So there might actually be nobody in the world who even understands any international trade agreement. When I do contracts for my business, they end up being these big fat contracts for syndication or publishing or licensing or whatever. And I never know what's in them. I mean, at some point I skim through it and go, where's the part about the money? and the lawyers work on the rest. But so voters have no idea who would make the best negotiator for international trade deals, or even what should be in them, or even whether we should be harder on our competitors in the world or softer. Nobody knows. And likewise, fighting ISIS. Do you really know, you sitting there, Mr. Voter, Mrs. Voter, do you know what we should do about ISIS? I sure don't. I mean, I have some ideas, and I know what I would try. Generally speaking, I'd be in favor of testing things and figuring out what works, but that's probably just what we're doing now. Testing stuff and seeing if it works. So I'm not sure I'd have anything to add with ISIS, and I have no reason to think that one candidate would do better than the other. When it comes to the economy, it usually has nothing to do with the president anyway. So if you go right down the line, there's things either I don't understand or probably won't make any difference. And then there's stuff like, let's say, abortion. My view on abortion doesn't map with anybody's, because I think men should just stay out of the question. Because my view on abortion is the most important thing is that the law, whatever it is credible to women, because women have the biggest impact. So nobody has that point of view. My point of view is that my point of view on abortion should be as a follower. Just women should tell me as a majority, what do you want the law to be in this country about abortion? And then I promise you in advance, without even knowing what that law is, I'm with you. If that's what if that's what most women want, let women decide about abortion. So anyway, my point is, on most topics in politics, I either don't know enough, just like you, to have an informed opinion, or my opinion is so far from the mainstream that none of the candidates represent it. So there was no point in having a candidate under that situation. But then Clinton sort of made it easy with her suggestion about a death tax. Now I know a lot of people have accurately and yet misleadingly said, but wait, that 65% only applies to people with $500 million or something like that. But she also wanted to raise the rate below that as well. So I think if you're above $10 million, you start paying, up from 40% to 50%. So it's big money, and it is confiscation. So people ask me online, what's the difference between just getting taxed with a progressive tax, which we have now, versus confiscation? And I'll tell you what the difference is. If you've paid taxes on it once, and then you put it in your bank, and then they come and get it, that second part is confiscation. All right? So let me walk you through the math. So let's say you've got an estate that's over $10 million. And I forget the numbers, but it's something like you're going from 40% death tax to 50% proposed, somewhere in that range. So at my income level, the governments collectively, state, local, whatever, federal, are taking about half of what I make. I'm just rounding here. So I don't have any clever, foreign offshore tax dodges. I don't have a mortgage, so I don't have any big legal write-offs. So I pay the maximum taxes. And everything I make is because I worked hard, right? I was born with basically nothing, and I worked, 7 days a week for decades, including today. I don't know what you're doing today, but I'm working today, this morning. So I earned all of my money myself, working several jobs at a time, cartooning while I was doing my day job for years, and then writing books while I'm doing my cartooning, while I'm doing licensing, while I've got a speaking career. Every bit of this was work. So I earned every penny I made. So half of it goes to the government. And I got to say, I don't complain about it too much. Right? Half of my money goes to other people right off the top. And I work way harder than, I would say, 90% of the world, because I do work almost every day. But then, should I die with that money, the half that the government let me keep, they're proposing taking half of that again. So if you're playing along with the math, that means that every dollar I earn today is taxed at 75%. So in other words, I mean, there are things I could do to hide it and put it in trusts and blah, blah, blah. But they wouldn't be raising the taxes if they didn't think they could get people to pay it, right? It's not, they don't raise the tax and say, oh, and at the same time, here's your loophole, all right? Because if you think that's going to happen, you don't really understand raising taxes. They don't raise them just to give it back to you in a different way. So how would you feel if you, let's put yourself in my shoes. I don't have to work. Every penny I make goes to other people from now on because I've made enough money for myself. But how would you feel if you only got to keep 25% of it, or basically your estate only got to keep 25% of every dollar? How would you feel about that? No matter what your income level is, and no matter how much you think rich people should give all their money to the poor, do you want to live in a country where if you do well, your tax rate is 75%? And by the way, that's without anybody getting any free college. Nobody in the country is getting free health care. None of that shit's happening. They still want to tax me 75%. You would move. Yeah. So here's the deal. If Clinton became president and the death tax went up to what she says, I would actually consider moving just for tax reasons. I mean, I'd have to look into it. I'm not sure how any of that works. Can I move all of my assets overseas and become a citizen somewhere else? And do you have to renounce your citizenship to get in at death taxes? I wouldn't have death taxes in the United States if I just became a citizen of someplace else, would I? Why do I live in California? Obviously, you've never been to California. What kind of hellhole do you live in? And tell me if you wouldn't pay more taxes to live in California. Because you know what the weather is here? Fucking awesome, just like every day. How's the weather at your house with your low taxes? Argument with who? I missed that. You'd have to repatriate. Expats pay American taxes. There's an exit tax? It's all so complicated. All right, but the point is, I would do everything I could to get out of paying 75% taxes. Australia's better. Where should I move? Wouldn't it be better if just Trump won the election and I don't have to pay? Anyway, to get back to my point, most topics I don't understand in politics. I don't know how to fight ISIS. I don't know how to do international trade deals. I don't know which candidate would do a better job on any of that. But if you tell me one of the candidates wants to tax my current income, the dollar I make today, I'm literally working today. So I'll show you. Just before I did this, I was writing my comic, doing my work, as I always do. And when I'm off of here, I'll spend several hours finishing the art on that and drawing. By every dollar I make today, the government's going to take 75%. So they'll take half of it when I make it, and they'll take half of what's left when I die, according to Hillary Clinton. Yeah, at my level of income and wealth. So, is there anybody who doesn't think it's rational for me to endorse Trump under that situation, where all the other things I don't understand, but the one thing I do understand is clearly not in my favor? I mean, it's way not in my favor. Don't die. Now, somebody also asked, why was I endorsing Clinton for a long time? For my safety. But then, for some tax reason, I would put myself in danger. And here's the difference. When a burglar is inside your house already, your risk assessment changes, right? You know, you play it safe when you can play it safe, but as soon as the burglar is actually inside your house, which is what it sounds like, you know, Clinton is, you know, leading in some polls and still projected to win, and has promised to take half of my estate when I die. You know, the stuff I'm working on today, you know, the actual work I'm doing today, Clinton would like to take 75% of it. So, yes, it's confiscation. And by the way, a lot of people are going to say to you the same thing they said to me about this. Online, you'll see people doing the sarcastic thing. Oh, I wish I had $500 million so I could pay that 65%. Or they'll say, ha ha, you think you have $500 million, which I don't. But keep in mind, she wants to raise all the rates. So she's not raising just the top to 65. She's moving, you know, the 40 to 50 and the 50 to 55 or whatever. And that's big money. Going from 40% to 50% is a 25% increase in a tax that shouldn't have existed in the first place. And by the way, I feel completely different about someone who's the seventh person to inherit, you know, money that was made, you know, generations ago. You know, if the government wants to tax them down a little bit, that's a slightly different conversation. But every dollar I made on my own by working harder than other people. I got lucky too, but it's not like I didn't work 7 days a week. All right. Nothing like other people's money. I feel like I'm just complaining today, and 1,000 people signed up to listen to it. It's weird. So we criticize Hillary for that. The Charlotte persuasion contest. You know, I'm getting confused about which shooting was which. So there's a Tulsa, there's a Charlotte. There's so many of them now that it's hard to actually keep them straight, which is sad in and of itself. Black Lives Matter wants 80%. That's a fake because. Let's talk about Charlotte a little bit. So Charlotte, remind me if I got that wrong. Is Charlotte the one where the police killed the armed African American who may have had a book, but it might have been a gun, unless the gun was planted? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Is that the one? Well, I think we just have to wait, right? Don't we have to wait and get a little more information? Because unfortunately, we don't live in the world where you can just rule out the fact that they planted a gun on a guy. Now, I think it's very unlikely because they were yelling, put down the gun the whole time, right? Yeah, I mean, I think we can assume he had a gun, but if you haven't seen the video, and holy book, if you haven't seen the video from the police, and we haven't, right? And by the way, is there a reason we haven't seen that? I didn't see the reason we didn't see it. Well, actually, that's not true. Did you see the video? Maybe that was the Tulsa video, where the perp was on the ground with his arms up and got shot anyway. His wife yelled, "Don't do it." Yeah. Well, the wife was also yelling that he has a book, not a gun, right? Which is a weird thing to yell, because, yeah, the police officer did he get shot only by one person? No, she never said that? Oh, she didn't say that. So if you look at what's happened recently, you've seen a female white police officer kill an African American man who, in that case, was not armed, or was he armed? I'm losing all sense of it. And then you have an African American cop killing an African American guy. She said he had no gun. Oh, yeah. So it's really kind of flipped the frame, hasn't it? Because it felt like just a few weeks ago that it was sort of a race riot situation and the police were just the focus of it. But then when it became clear that everybody's, African American police and women are shooting men, and it just became this murkier situation suddenly because our minds are focused on anecdotes. We're not good at looking at the big picture. So whatever it is that is happening today has a bigger impact on us than it should, right? But here's the most politically incorrect question you're going to hear. And I'll put this in the form of a question. So the police woman, if that's even a phrase, the police officer who happened to be a woman, so she kills a guy. And I asked myself, do women who are police officers shoot men of any color at a higher rate than they shoot women? In other words, are there more female police officers who shoot unarmed men than shoot unarmed women? Now, there may not be a big enough sample. There may not be enough women who are both police officers and shooting unarmed people to have any kind of a sample. But wouldn't you expect that female police officers would shoot a far higher percentage of males than females? And if so, how do you explain that except sexism? That's a serious question, by the way. It's serious even though I'm saying it to be provocative. I'm almost certain that if you could look into it, you'd find out that most people getting shot at situations like this are male, and probably when women are the shooters, just like men, they're more often shooting males. Now, when a man shoots a man, we don't bother to ask the question about, is there a reason that this man shot a man? Because men shooting men is just what we're used to. But I'd be interested to know if women shoot men at a higher rate than men shoot men, and a higher rate than either men or women shoot women. Now, you could argue that as a raw number, there are more men creating these kinds of crimes, and therefore more men who have guns themselves and more men who get shot. So, but still, the ones who are unarmed, women shoot everyone at a higher rate. Do you have statistics on that, or are you just assuming that's true? 50 times the rate women shoot more often. I'd have to see a statistic on that before I believed it, but it's sort of provocative, isn't it? The question is that if women shoot men more often than they shoot women, and I'm talking about police officers who are women, professionals who are trained to distinguish between, who you shoot and who you shouldn't shoot, isn't it sexism? What else would it be? Then why ask? So, yeah, so Trump said that the police officer might have choked. And I think the question, I know why you're asking this question, because you're wondering if he's using words like choking as a master persuader way to get Hillary Clinton to choke or to make you think about her choking during the debate. So I'm going to make a prediction here. I predict that during some part of Trump's answers, part of his responses at the debate, he will use the word choke. And he will use it in a context that sounds like it belongs, but it will be to make Clinton think about choking. Because when she's thinking about it, it's going to be hard not to do it. It's sort of like, when somebody yawns, it makes you yawn. If somebody coughs, it makes you cough. So here's the things I can guarantee. There will be people in the audience who are Trump supporters who will cough. And they might just like... Now, nobody's going to get kicked out for coughing, especially if they just do it once. Just... So you can pretty much guarantee that people are going to be clearing their throats and coughing. But my guess is that Trump will use some kind of language. I don't think he'll use the word cough unless, the situation really calls for it. But I think he might use the word choke because you could work it into an answer. You might say, look, I'm worried that, I've handled more dangerous situations, and I worry that my competitor could go in there, and when she's talking to Putin, she's negotiating, maybe she'll choke. Now, actually, he probably wouldn't say it that would be a little too on the nose, right? So saying choke about Clinton might not be his best bet because that would look a little heavy-handed. But they could say, what do you think about all these police killings? And he could say, look, it's a terrible situation. I know that when you're in danger, sometimes you'll choke. And just talk about the police and say, you cough just from hearing this. Choke artist. Yeah, no, I wouldn't go directly at it and come up with a nickname that had choking in it. I don't think Trump should do that, because if he goes after health in sort of a heavy-handed, just sort of a bully way, people aren't going to like it. But choke is a real word that you can use in a real sentence, and if it's not in the context about her, it doesn't. Yeah, Obama is a choke artist. Saying a woman chokes is sexist. Maybe. Maybe it could be received that way. I know you're trying to make me itch, but it won't work today. Any other predictions for the debates? Yeah. My prediction for the debate is that I wonder if they're going to have to set up another camera so that they have a camera angle of the front row. Because typically they wouldn't, right? They would just have, the camera would be exclusively on the competitors, and maybe there might be one long shot to show you the room, but they would just show that sort of at the beginning and the end or something. Typically they wouldn't have a camera with a reverse angle to show the front row, I don't think. I'm not aware I've ever seen that at a debate. But this time they almost have to, because it's part of the story, right? So that's the first part, is that you might see the camera angle change to the front row a little bit for the first time. Second thing is, I would expect Trump would go in better armed with facts and data than you expect. Now, he's not going to be able to keep up with Clinton in terms of her raw, database of knowledge about the world, but he doesn't need to. He just has to show that he's grown since the last time you checked in, right? So if the last time you heard him, he wasn't saying anything about policies or details, but this time he says a little bit about policies and details, you're going to say, hey, that sounds a little more presidential than I was expecting. So, and basically everybody's saying the same thing now. The bar is lower for him. So the real interesting part is how outrageous he decides to get. Now, everybody's saying that Clinton is going to try to get under his skin and get him all excited and stuff. I don't know that's exactly what she's trying to do, because if she is, that's a total Hail Mary pass with very low odds of working. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but he just went through several debates on in the primaries, and jogged my memory here, but I thought everyone was after him, and did you see him lose his cool? I mean, he did his normal Trump thing, But was there any point where Trump looked like he lost his cool during any of those? So tell me if I'm wrong, right? You watched the debates. You'll get under her skin. Well, yeah, right. So why would anybody think that she's going to get under his skin when he's come this far and nobody has yet? I mean, when people get under his skin, he does something like send off an angry tweet, but it's just words. His demeanor probably doesn't change at all. You know, don't you think, a serious question here, don't you think that the angriest tweet that Trump ever sent out, that while he was doing it, he was sitting there either dictating it with a smile on his face or actually laughing in his, his lazy boy up in his penthouse, just typing it out and going, oh, I'm going to call Gates dopey. No. Don't you think he's laughing when he does it? The whole, yeah, totally. So all the things that most people have interpreted as Trump's lost it because look at this tweet. Trump is off the rails. His temperament must be bad. Just look at these tweets. You know that while he's sending the tweet, he can't get the shit-eating grin off his face. All right. He's probably literally smiling as he sends the tweets because he knows what shit it's going to cause and how it's going to work. He knows how it's going to be received. He thinks it's funny calling a Secretary of Defense dopey, because I would, especially if I knew he was going to read it. Like if you knew he was going to read it and you're calling him dopey, wouldn't you sort of be laughing when he wrote it? Right? So I don't doubt that Trump, like everyone else in the world, can have a temper. But what is the evidence he's ever lost his temper in this election, right? Every time you've seen him in person, he acts Trump-like and he'll insult you and say things. But has he ever looked out of control in person? This is a serious question. Can you name one time that in person, while you're in public, I mean, that you saw him even look a little bit out of control? Not once, right? Now, how many times did you think he was out of control because of something he tweeted? Probably a bunch of times, and it's mostly because the media said, oh my God, look what he's tweeted. He's used words. His words are so provocative. Look at these words. And I just imagine him back at his, on his private plane tweeting this and just laughing. So probably all the things that have been framed as his terrible temperament and his thin-skinned lack of control, probably half of that is him laughing, literally, just like smiling while he's writing something. This is pretty funny. And the other half is him not being angry at all, just being in public and being exactly like he always is. Sometimes he speaks louder, but he has the sexist advantage that when a large man speaks louder, as long as he doesn't raise his voice into some kind of a weird squeal, he just sounds more powerful. Whereas Clinton has the problem that when she raises her voice, our sexist brains interpret that differently, right? So if you think about, this is one of those mind-bending moments, right? Where you think about the fact that the other side, Clinton, has framed Trump successfully as having a bad temperament. Here's someone who has never been in a fight, that we know of, as an adult anyway. Basically, he doesn't have. There's not even a scrap of evidence that he has a bad temperament. In fact, all the evidence suggests the opposite. Because look what he's been through. Do you remember seeing him at the Correspondents' Dinner? I mentioned this before, whatever year it was, when Obama did his takedown of, it must have been 2008 maybe, did his takedown and Trump just sat there and passively took it. Now, he got even with his, various things he said about him, but did he ever look like he lost control? Not once. Not once. Oh, damn it, you made my nose itch. You bastards. Yeah, I saw the video. Y'all have to see the video of Gary Johnson talking to some kind of reporter on a park bench, and at some point he just sticks his tongue out, and I'm not going to do an impression because somebody will screen grab it here. He just sticks his tongue out and keeps talking with his tongue out, like I think he was mockingly acting like a person who would act like he was dumb and couldn't talk because his tongue was sticking out or something. So I think he was trying to be funny, but that is one seriously not funny dude if that was his best effort at being funny. He is kind of insane. Let me ask you this. If I were to run for president, do you think I could do better than Gary Johnson? I don't think I could do better than Trump, and I couldn't do better than Clinton. But does anybody have any doubt that I could beat Gary Johnson in a straight-up race for the presidency? And I could be twice as stoned. I could beat Gary Johnson in a debate if we were both totally stoned, which actually that would be a good idea. Do you think I should challenge Gary Johnson to a debate, and he can either be stoned or not, because he's trying to be not stoned because he's running for president. But he and I will debate, and I'll just be super high, like just higher than anybody's ever been high. And I'll debate him on video. I'm pretty sure I'd beat him. Pretty sure. Wouldn't you like to see that? We could do it on Periscope. We don't need a big budget, right? I'll just put my iPad on a stand. He's probably going to make a tour through California, right? I'll say, look, Gary, come to my house. I will get super wasted. You'll have to just watch because you're running for president and I'm not. And then I'll debate you. Now, of course, as you know, this would be the very first time I ever smoked marijuana if I were to do this. So, damn it, my nose itches. You bastards. Stop doing that to me. You'll ruin your credibility. Well, no, I've never smoked weed, but I'm willing to do it once just for this event. Okay, I'm lying. I did smoke weed once. I just never stopped. Debate Sam Harris. That would be interesting. About Trump? Oh, I would debate Sam Harris about Trump. Yeah, I'd be down for that. Let's do it. I swear to God, my nose just keeps itching. It's not a runny nose. It's just literally itches. It's because of you. You bastards suggested it. Now it's happening. It's for telling lies. Yeah, it's growing. It's actually, my nose is expanding. Sam Harris, I challenge you to a debate on the pros and cons of a Trump presidency. I will take the pro side just for the sake of debate. Again, I don't know anything about policies. But I still think I could win a debate on policy without knowing anything about them. I am that cocky. Illustration of a choke suggestion. Yeah, so you want to use, if you wanted to use the word choke and during the debates, and let's say Trump wanted to use that word as a suggestion to increase the likelihood, that increase the likelihood that Clinton would think about choking and therefore choke. I'd say something like, we don't want to go into these international trade agreements with China with somebody who doesn't know how to negotiate. It's going to get tense and they're just going to choke. We don't need that. We don't need somebody who gets the phone call at 3 a.m. about Benghazi and then chokes. Now that one would be a little more direct, and I think that would be ill-advised. So I would not use, damn it, there. Why do you keep doing this to me? It would be ill-advised, I think, to use choking in the same sentence with Benghazi, because here's my problem with it. Benghazi is about fallen American heroes And you don't mix that with anything that's a little bit funny. The choking thing, while it would be an interesting technique to use to see if you could actually get her to choke on stage, it's funny. And you don't mix that with Benghazi, right? Even though you're just talking about it, it's just not cool. Right? You got to sort of, leave the. You'd be making the Khan mistake again, the Mr. and Mrs. Khan mistake. So he made a joke about the Khans, but they were too close to, a fallen soldier in our minds because their son, obviously. And so you just can't make a even a slightly humorous comment anywhere near that context. Yeah, they choked in their dealings with Iran. You could definitely say that stuff. That would be fair. Who is this Benghazi? He will make her debate Les Miserables. Will moderators attack Trump? It'll look like it. It'll probably look like they all got attacked, but everybody's going to think their side got attacked harder. Will they shake hands? I would think so. A couple of people asked me that, but why wouldn't they? Will you actively go after Clinton now? What would that look like? I've been forwarding joke memes and stuff for months because the Trump folks are just funnier. It could be because I'm biased, but doesn't it seem to you that the everybody on the Trump side is literally just funnier? Damn it. You make my nose itch so much. You bastards. Yeah, Cuban in the front row. I think putting Cuban in the front row will have no impact on Trump. And here's why. First of all, he knows Mark Cuban. He's been listening to Mark Cuban, bug him on social media and on TV for months now. But more importantly, they know each other. And more importantly, who has been criticized by more people that he knows personally than Trump? I mean, for the last year, he might own the world's record for being insulted. So to think that there's just one person who happens to be, in the news a lot, damn it. It's going to bother him. I don't think that's going to be a big deal. All right, I'm going to go draw my comic. Will you get high right before watching the debate? I don't know why that day should be any different than any other day. Oh, I don't know who's more of a fraud. I don't use the word fraud because we're all pretending to be what we are on some level. Who else do I expect to be in the front row? I don't have any expectations about that. Yeah, I got to go back and try to earn my 25 cents on a dollar, according to Clinton. I get to keep 25 cents. Yay. Tax me once, and then tax me again when I die. Sort of the final fuck you when you put you in the grave. Hey, gonna take half your money. Goodbye. All right. Patricia Smith. So, keep tweeting at Sam Harris. All right. See you guys later.